What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm gonna share with you how to build a mobile application. And by the end of the video, you're gonna know exactly what it takes to take your idea and launch it into an app. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Faris Sabati. I'm the co-founder and CEO of MySwimPro. MySwimPro has gone on to become a global technology and media company with a distributed workforce that spans across 10 different time zones. The MySwimPro app has been named by Apple as the best app of the year, including a number of different international accolades. The mobile application has been downloaded over 1 million times and now generates over 7 figures in revenue. In this video, we're going to talk about 4 different ways to take your idea and turn it into an application. In this series specifically, I help entrepreneurs take their business to the next level. And if you have an idea for starting a company or building an application, I'll share with you the right entrepreneurial mindset and the tips and tricks that you need to take action and take that first step. Before we go into the video, I'll link you guys to 2 videos I've done. One of them is a TEDx talk I did specifically on how I took my idea for MySwimPro and it became App of the Year. It's a TEDx talk. I'll link it in the description below. Another video is how I took my idea for MySwimPro and turned it into a company in 54 hours at Detroit Startup Weekend. Both of those videos will be linked in the description. If you guys are interested in this kind of content, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Be sure to hit that big like on this video and let's get right into it. Now, the first way that you can actually build an application is to build it yourself. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be a software engineer. If you're a software engineer, that can help you a ton. It'll give you that first step advantage. So if you're not a software engineer, whether you're iOS, Android, you know how to build in Swift or Java, whatever programming language it is, that's great. It'll get you started. But you might not necessarily need to be a software developer, and here's how you might be able to get started. You can use a number of different tools available online to build the wireframes and a working prototype of the application. There are some tools now that you can actually build a fully fledged version of the application with directional swipes and all these cool things that you can do in native iOS and Android development right there on a number of different web applications. If you just go to Google search and you type in how to make an app, you're gonna find a number of different software applications that you can use. Now, the pros of building an application on your own is that you can control the output. And I'll quickly note, if you're not a software engineer yet and you don't know how to use any of these tools, you can always learn how to program. I've made a number of different iOS applications in Swift. They're not on the App Store, but just to get my feel of how it actually works. You can also learn how to program through a number of different Code Academy and software development schools online. You can also take a number of different boot camps. But that's certainly an option. And again, the pro is that you control the output. You are the one creating the product. You have 100% ownership, whether it's good, bad, or ugly of what you end up creating. You control the output. And it's also the least expensive option. In terms of cost, it's your time. If you're gonna sign up for one of these programming courses, I recommend Team Treehouse. I actually learned how to do iOS development and front-end web development and a solid level of software architecture through Team Treehouse. So linked out to them. But you can learn how to code and you can learn how to do these things online almost for free. And if you are a software developer yourself, then of course you already have the skill and you know how to refine that skill. And if you want to learn a new skill, whether it's coding in Swift, if you're a Java developer or any programming language, you can certainly do that online. Now, the cons is that you might need prior experience because that can help you a lot. So if you know nothing at all, you can certainly learn, but the opportunity cost is the time of doing that. It won't really cost you anything other than the amount of time that you spend doing it. And if you have prior programming experience or UI UX design experience, that'll get you in the front road a lot faster. But that is not even a con if you think about it that way. It's just the opportunity cost of having to learn those things. So that is option number 1, build the application yourself. Now, option number 2 is you can hire someone to build the application yourself. Now, this can happen in a number of different ways. In number 2, what we're specifically talking about is hiring a talented software engineer that may be in your backyard, they might be your neighbor, they might be on the other side of the world. Depending on where you're watching this video, they could be located in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, in India. There's so many different areas and countries and parts of the world. There are talented software engineers everywhere. The challenge is finding the right person for the right job and being able to articulate and explain exactly what you need. So the pros here are that it is the second least expensive option. The least expensive option is you build it yourself. The second least expensive option is you actually hire someone to build it. And how much does that cost? A lot of people always ask me, how much does it cost to build an application? How do you build an app? How do I do this? It can cost anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 US. You could even probably get less depending on what you're trying to build, and it could cost a lot more. But typically, if you're hiring an individual, and there are definitely platforms out there where you can hire someone, whether it's Upwork or Fiverr, there's a number of different platforms that you can literally find developers. If you want an iOS engineer, if you want an Android engineer, I'll link a couple of those in the description. But there's certainly platforms that you can go out and you can find and read reviews and see this engineer has built 30 applications before. This engineer has built 5 iOS apps, and they were all similar to what I'm trying to build. There's a high likelihood they can take on this project. It might cost you per hour. It might be a fixed project rate. And again, anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 US. Of course, it depends a lot on the application, the demands, what you're trying to do, how much work you've put in up front versus how much the engineer or the designer is trying to do. But in this specific example, you're trying to hire one person to build out the product. Now, another pro, besides the fact that it's pretty inexpensive if you're trying to put your idea out there, it's relatively fast. Meaning, you can go from idea to mock-ups to communicating with an engineer and having an app fully built out in 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Literally a matter of weeks, you can go from this idea and have it in a mobile application working on your iPhone, on your Android phone, and it's really amazing how fast this can happen. Again, $1,000 to $10,000, that's a good range to think about. And the cons here, it's very difficult to scale. So if it turns out that you don't really like the job that this person did, you already paid them for their time to create it, he or she has already put in that effort, and if you want to change anything, it's going to cost you more. You might decide that you want to completely scrap the idea for the app, and you want to build something completely different, and it's like you're starting over. So it's not the most scalable way because it's just going to incrementally cost more and more and more. And also, if you want to hire a team or you want someone else to work on the application, most likely this engineer is not going to be able to communicate with the new engineer that's working on the project, meaning the code base is not necessarily transferable. And if you have someone else working and picking up on a project that another engineer was working on, the new engineer is most likely he or she is going to be starting from scratch. So this whole process becomes very difficult to scale in the long run. But it's a really great short-term solution to build something really fast and really inexpensive. You also need to know what you want. I mentioned UI, UX, wireframes, mockups. A lot of these different things take some kind of a background. So you can do that research on Google and you can learn a lot of these things on YouTube or different courses online. But if you're not familiar with what exactly it is you're looking to build, it's going to make this a lot more complicated and you're going to end up spending a lot more time and money building things that you might not actually want. So that's option number 2. Now the other option of hiring someone is to actually hire a firm. So rather than hiring one specific individual that may be a neighbor in your backyard, in your city, or across the world online through one of these platforms, if you hire a firm, then you take it to another level. It's going to cost more, it's going to potentially take longer, but your end result might be more polished in what you're looking for. A great example of hiring a firm is the fact that there are local companies, and of course international companies, located in literally every single city. Any major city is going to have a software development company that creates mobile applications. If you're in the United States, that's certainly the case. And most international cities are going to have a firm that could be anywhere from 2, 3, 500 or 5,000 people, and they specialize in building mobile applications. So whether you want an iPhone app, Android app, cross-platform, something that'll work on both iPhone, Android, both of them together, or the website, they can do it all. And they will do a professional job. You can read reviews because remember, this is their business. It is their company's reputation. So they already have a process because they do this routinely. You can definitely find individuals who do this routinely and they build mobile applications all the time, and that's what they do for a living. When you work with a firm, it's a lot easier to get a reputation behind you because you're reading about a company that has reviews, that has done other projects. And because of that, the quality of work, and that's a pro, is most likely going to be at a certain level that you have an expectation that's going to be met. So you have a certain expectation of the quality of the work, like the app's going to function, it's going to do its job, it's going to look clean. Even if you don't have the design experience, they can help you with that. And they can sort of do a lot of different things besides developing the application. They might be able to help you market the application. They might be able to help you design it and really think through your idea. All of this comes at a cost. So because they're doing a more professional job and they might have a team around building the product, it's going to cost a lot more money. How much money? It could take anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, $50,000, $100,000. I've seen mobile applications that are on, I kid you not, $2 million projects. Software engineering firms here in Michigan, in the United States where I live, $2 million. And it can, that's on the high end, I'll give you that. That's on the high end. But there are certainly applications and companies that will run you a ton of money. So typically, hiring a firm is actually reserved by bigger companies. So you're a big company, you're an automotive company, a supply chain company, and you need a mobile application for whatever use case because this app hasn't been built for whatever reason, and you need a specific app to do a specific job, and you are a multi-billion-dollar company, so you can go to firm XYZ, you can scope out the project, they'll have a team of 15 to 20 to 50 engineers, work on this product, refine it, and they'll do the typical agile development process with you, and they'll refine it, and they'll work on testing, and it'll be bug-free for the most part, and a really polished thing, and this app will cost you $500,000 per quarter to maintain. So if that's the kind of budget you're looking for, and maybe you found this video and you're looking at building an app for your company or your enterprise, then this might be the option for you. I definitely do not recommend this option unless you are in that corporate environment and you're really looking to take a product into scale and you have the budget to do so in the long run specifically. There's another problem here with scope creep. And if you have to know what you want, because if you go to this firm and they take advantage of you, it will cost you $100,000 to build an application and then find out, similar to an example of hiring someone, that it's not actually what you want, and you'll have to refine it and everything. That's going to cost you another $75,000. And by the end of the day, you will have spent $200,000 building an application that doesn't serve the problem that you're trying to solve in the first place, and that was a huge waste of time and money. So I do not recommend this unless you're in the corporate world. Now the fourth option is the option that I've done at MySwimPro, is to build a technology company. Sounds fancy, sort of, not really. This is really a long-term approach because you have a long-term interest in developing not only a product, not only an app, but a company, and the application potentially could support the business as a whole. So you need to think about this a little bit different. So rather than hiring someone to execute on the idea, to take your vision and bring it to life, you're thinking about it from the perspective of recruiting technical co-founders who can help as a partner, as a business relationship, and they're working for sweat equity in the beginning. And this is really how you can take your idea to life. Now, it's really important to understand the motivations behind yourself and the people that you're trying to recruit to your team. The more upfront work that you can do in showcasing the strategy, the product definition, the customer discovery, the mock-ups, and the plan of attack, and how you're going to build a long-term business, that will make it so much easier to recruit other people to your team. If you just go to someone and you say, I have an idea for an application, can you build this? Well, of course, if it's an engineer, they're going to say they can build it because they probably can build it. Then you're not really talking about building a technology company. You're probably more along this side of the board where you're going to either, it's better off you just build it yourself using some kind of a tool, or you learn how to program yourself. And that could, again, take a lot of time, not going to cost a lot of money. If you're really motivated, you can do it. And there's plenty of success stories of people doing that. Or more likely, you're just going to hire someone online. I recommend, because you can find someone for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and they can do a really awesome job, and they have a portfolio of building 30 or 40 different applications. That's definitely a great option. If you're thinking about building a long-term business and you want to take something to market, then you're talking about building a technology company, and you're specifically focusing on finding technical co-founders. Again, it's really important that you take a look at those videos I referenced in the beginning, the TEDx talk, how I took my idea, turned it into App of the Year, and more importantly, potentially, if you're at this stage, how to go from idea to a company in 54 hours at Detroit Startup Weekend. I outline all the different things that we did at MySwimPro and how it was able to go from an idea into a business, into a minimum viable product. The pros of building a technology company are that you have the ultimate role in creating a vision. You have an idea for not only an application, but a business. You've identified a problem. You want to create a solution that has some kind of a magnificent impact. It could be an impact financially. It could be on the world, solving world hunger, saving people. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you have the opportunity to shape a grand vision. It's much harder to do that if you're going to build it yourself and you kind of want to sit in a box and focus on it like that. Some cons, this is the hardest and most work to do it correctly. You can do this wrong actually the easiest. It's very easy to find people who have different motivations than you, and then you can put something together and all of a sudden you think you have a technology company when in fact you have a bunch of people who don't have an aligned vision. They're not working in the long term towards anything, and most of the time, that's not going to go anywhere. The application may not even launch. I've seen this a number of different times. People work on something for 4 months, 8 months, 2 years, and the product never even gets into market. It's really important that you get your idea into the market quickly to try and learn from it and iterate. And the ability to learn and iterate really only happens if you're trying to build a technology company. Again, the cost and the scope creep of any of the other options make it almost impossible to do that in any kind of an efficient way. Another con is that it can be a slow process at first. But I want to emphasize this point because it's not that it takes a long time to build the specific feature or the application. Big like if you enjoy my mock iPhone, Android screenshot right there. But it's not about the time it takes to develop and to build the app. It's figuring out what you're actually going to build and how you're going to take this idea and solve a problem. Because hopefully it's not just an idea. Ideas are a commodity. Execution is everything. If you take nothing away from this video, and maybe you came to this video and you have an idea in your head and you want to bring this idea to life and you're so motivated and so inspired and you've done all your research and you know that there's nothing out there in the market that's similar to what you're trying to do. You've identified a problem and you really believe it, that this problem exists and you have to go out there and you have to solve it. And that's the whole reason why I wanted to make this video, because that's how I felt with MySwimPro. I saw there's a problem and I want to help people and I want to take it to life. If you take anything away from this video, it's that the idea is only step one, and there's a number of different steps in the future that you have to build towards. It's really important that you don't go and spend $200,000 building an application or hire someone immediately. Take a step back, think about the problem that you're trying to solve, and go and talk to those people that have that problem. Figure out if you even need an application in the first place. Maybe it doesn't make sense to have an app. Maybe it makes more sense to have a website. You don't really know what you don't know. And that's why in this whole process of building a technology company, step number one is identifying a problem and validate that problem over and over. I talk about it in those two videos, the how to take a company idea to a company at Detroit Startup Weekend and then the TEDx talk. You have to really validate that there is a true problem, there's a true pain. And once you validate this, it becomes so much easier to create the designs, the mock-ups, the imagery of what the application will do, how it will work, who it will serve, and your odds of success are so much more. You have so much more opportunity to be successful in launching your product. Again, success can mean the number of downloads, the impact, the financial return. All of those things will be significantly higher if you take a step back at the front, you do the customer discovery, you really understand the problem that you're trying to solve. The solution could be an application. You might end up finding that this is not an application to solve the problem, but you might need to do something completely differently. It might be a completely different market. And a lot of people, they go through either step one or step two or step three or step four, and they find out that what they're trying to do doesn't even warrant having a business or an application or anything like that, which is why it's so important to do that customer discovery. I'll be linking some resources in the description and other videos I've done that can help you in that process. I hope this video was helpful in shaping the 4 key ways of how you can build an application, whether it's an iPhone app, an Android app. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a big like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone you come across who thinks they have an idea for an application. Send them over my way. Let me know in the comments what you're working on, what your idea for an application is, or if you've already taken those first steps, where you're at. I would love to see how I can help you guys in your vision, whatever it may be. As always, stay safe and keep hustling.